Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest. Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talk House podcast.
What's up? What is up? I'm your host, Elliot Einhorn. Welcome back to the Talk House podcast. This week, I'm joined from our studio in Brooklyn by the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. Are you uncomfortable saying your name after that?
Deeply uncomfortable. The man who can inspire nothing but disappointment in others. Nick Dawson, editor-in-chief of Talk House Film.
Nick, welcome back to the show. You have put together a very special episode for us this week.
Yeah, it's a great pairing. I'm super excited that this happened. It's something I've tried to put together for a while. Olivier Assayas in conversation with Kelly Reichardt. This was recorded last fall at the New York Film Festival, where Kelly's movie First Cow and Olivier's film Wasp Network were both playing. They've been big fans of each other for a really long time, and this is two of the great living filmmakers in conversation. And as far as I can tell, it's really the first time that they've had a substantial conversation, and it was like a real pleasure to be there and to be present to listen to them talk.
It really was. It was palpable how much they cared about each other's films. Olivier is, of course, a French film director and screenwriter.
Yeah, and he has so many important films, from his breakthrough movie in 1994, the coming-of-age movie Cold Water, to Irma Vep, to Demon Lover. And in the past 5 or 6 years, he's made 2 movies with Kristen Stewart, Clouds of Sils Maria and Personal Shopper, that are just really excellent. I'm particularly a big fan of Personal Shopper, and it was just such a pleasure to get Olivier and Kelly together in a room, as they're such brilliant and incredibly nice people.
Now, Kelly's known for her sort of minimalist style films, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many of which deal with working class characters in these small, pretty rural communities.
Exactly. As you said, she makes these small, minimalist movies. And in the talk, Assayas expresses it really beautifully. He says that her films are outwardly simple, but actually incredibly complex. Her latest movie, First Cow, which comes out March 6th through A24 Films, is another period piece. And it's such a sort of sweet, delightful film. It's just like 2 hours of just pure pleasure, and highly, highly recommended. It's to say it's a comedy drama is to do it a great disservice, because that sounds like a normal film in a way, but it's just really wonderful. And I'm not going to give away too much of the plot, but just go seek it out, go see it. It's fantastic, and you will not be disappointed.
Nick, I thought it was an interesting inversion that was applied here, where the lead actors are not so well known, while there's some pretty famous supporting cast. Yeah,
there's 2 really fantastic breakout performances from the film's 2 leads, John Magaro and Orion Lee. And the supporting cast is pretty stacked. It has, Toby Jones, the late Renee Aubergenois, Ewan Bremner, Gary Farmer, Lily Gladstone, and our old podcast friend, Alia Shawkat.
As well as a lovely cow.
The cow of the title gives, I have to say, a fantastic performance as well. It sort of sets the tone for the gentle spirit of First Cow.
Well, what makes this talk so lovely is Kelly and Olivier's deep appreciation of each other's work and craft, and we get to hear about a lot of different facets of that.
Whenever we do these podcasts, it's not like there's an agenda, we're not sending out talking points or anything like that. People just really go where they want to go, and the way that this conversation started was by Olivier essentially sort of expressing his deep appreciation for Kelly's work, and then like a really sort of touching and also very eloquent way. And from there, they just kind of foraged. They touched on so many different aspects of their respective creative processes, from writing through to editing, taking in production, of course, as well. And some of the things that came up that I thought was really fascinating was, the differences between them. Assayas seems to have this sort of like almost enforced spontaneity, where he wants to be very much in the moment and to make decisions as he's making the film, whereas Kelly is so much more about this love of preparation and planning and the intricacy that takes place in the preparatory stage.
And there's some great stories about the making of both Cold Water and Summer Hours.
Yeah, 2 of his greatest films and also most personal films. And, it's lovely to hear about the personal resonances in his life. Cold Water is this wonderful coming-of-age movie that was about him sort of saying goodbye to his adolescence. And Summer Hours is a very poignant film that was almost like a farewell to one of his family members.
It was also cool to hear them discuss the use of phones in films.
I know. I'm so happy that we have this because, like, for me, again, my profound love of Personal Shopper, like one of the amazing things about the film, and when I actually bumped into Assayas a couple of years ago at a party, I talked to him about the way that the iPhone is featured in Personal Shopper because I find it utterly compelling the way that it's the only film ever that I've seen where like a phone is actually interesting and really kind of like grips you like when somebody's on the phone rather than just like get off the fucking phone. And they both talk really compellingly about the importance of sort of engaging with technology and talking in their work about the way that technology reveals things about us and the way we live.
And they're engaging with technology differently themselves. We hear about why they've both stopped shooting on film.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's very, very good reasons. And we get to hear a great story about Kelly dreaming about the house from Coldwater when she was couch surfing in New York City.
And her past growing up in 60s and 70s Miami.
Which Olivier used Cuba to double for in Wasp Network.
Should we roll the tape?
Let's roll the tape.
So I'm not sure where we should start, but a good starting point, at least from my point of view. And this is not about being polite. It's really watching your work since I saw your first film has been one of the great pleasures in terms of my relationship to American cinema. I think you have an incredible body of work. It's very emotionally unlike anything I've seen in recent independent cinema, and certainly even less in mainstream filmmaking. Your movies, like about every single time, bring tears to my eyes. And I was talking about body of work. What I relate, I suppose, the most is with the fact that you are actually building a coherent body of work, which is both profound, poetic, superficially minimal, but actually very extremely complex. And, that's what cinema is about. So at least I get the opportunity to tell you that face to face, hoping not to embarrass you. But it's something I've been, wanting to tell you.
Wow. It means so much to me. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I came to know your films through first Coldwater. And at the time I was living in New York, just without an apartment, just sleeping all over. Mm-hmm. And I would dream up the house from Coldwater as my comfort place. And I haven't seen it since, but I just remember a blue room with the orange couch and these interiors. Anyway, I have my things I want to ask you are so kind of nuts and bolts and about how you make films.
But that film was the closest I made a movie that was autobiographical. I mean, the house is my house, the father is my father, the school is my... I mean, the house is not exactly my house, but it's pretty much the kind of house I grew up in. The father was that kind of father. I was that kind of kid. And I shot in my own high school. it's really the first time I dared to be openly autobiographical, just trying to recreate emotions I had as a teenager. And the beauty of it for me is that I'm kind of, when I think of it, I'm kind of lost. I'm not sure if I made the movie in 1972 or in 1995. Yeah. To me, it was like living my adolescence again. And saying goodbye to it also. At the same time, like when we shot the fire scene, I was almost crying because for me it was just like what was burning was my being, that kid, or something like that.
Wow. I mean, that's kind of what the assignment was, right? The days of my youth.
Yes.
Was that?
Yes, it was an authorization to be autobiographical. It was a commissioned work in a certain way, but the commission was to be autobiographical.
Right. I mean, there were so many nice films that came out in that series. It was such an introduction to another generation of French filmmakers for me, like Travolta and me and U.S. Go Home. But I always thought if that assignment was in America, it would have been just so different. I don't know if it would have worked as well. But what about Summer Hours? that seems very personal.
Summer Hours it's the same house. Also, again,
It is.
I mean, it's the same house. It relates to the same house. I wrote it when I sensed that my mother would not be around much longer. So she was still alive when I wrote the screenplay, but she was in her late 80s. She was 88 or something like that, and she always had been, holding herself like a much younger woman. I mean, she looked 20 years less than her actual age. And at some point, she didn't want to go out. You would call her up and say, "You want to go to see this exhibition? You want to do this? You want to do that?" It was like, "No, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it." And I kind of felt that she was kind of losing interest in life in general. Yeah. And I shot the film after her death. And the writing was kind of premonitory, and but filming it and filming. Sorry, Edith Scobb, who plays her in the film. There was something premonitory, I suppose. But it's kind of interesting.
Did you know that house, though, that you shot in?
It's when I found that house that I knew I would make the film. Because when I wrote the screenplay, I don't know if you feel like that. I mean, you write screenplays and you
find the place.
You don't have really a sense that they are real, that they are actually going going to happen.
The place is.
So all of a sudden it crystallizes when you find. So I had been looking for that house and not finding it, and I think I would not have made the film if I don't think I would have had the energy to make the film if I had not found the house. But the minute I found the house, I thought, okay, so it kind of makes sense to make the film. But do you also have that?
Yeah, if I don't have the place, I can't. As soon as we're working on the script, I want to go out and look for a place so I can just sort of make it make sense to me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
but you do that while you're writing?
Yes. I mean, we start, and sometimes Jonathan Raymond, who I've done a lot of projects with, sometimes he has something first, but I can't really get my head in it until I start finding places, just like you said. So while I'm working on the script, I'm always scouting also. And then I can sort of start doing the writing that kind of makes it more my own, I guess, in a way. But
for me, it's a little bit more layered in the sense that I write without having no notions of how I'm going to shoot it, what it's going to look like.
Oh, really?
And I try to forget I'm a director when I'm writing. I'm writing.
Because your camera is moving a lot, and I was wondering when that.
That happens in the morning before the shoot. I mean, meaning.
Really? Interesting.
It's. I really think that for me, my movies are built in layers. I mean, one layer is the writing, another layer is the casting, another layer is the choice of the locations, which is pretty similar to casting ultimately.
It is,
and then there is the actual energy of the filmmaking when it all becomes real. And I never design my films or design my shots before I start shooting. And usually I have no idea what the film will look like. I mean, it's always an embarrassment when, the cameraman always asks me, so for this movie, what kind of mood do you want? Do you have references? Do you want to show me paintings, photos, or whatever? And usually I have like nothing. I have like zero. And I have no idea myself what kind of style I want for the film. And I think it has to grow from the film.
But you've obviously been working with your production designer and your costume director, so you must have some, and even in casting and location scouting, you're starting to form a visual image. But it doesn't involve the camera movement yet.
Absolutely not. I designed the shots really on the morning before going to set. I spend, I don't know, it takes something like an hour and a half. I don't know if I'm lazy or if I have this culture of very bad schoolboy who does things at the last minute. But I need to have my back to the wall to start designing the shots.
Gosh, interesting. I don't think, honestly, American Woman could work that way because the cinematographers are, if you didn't have an answer, they would impose their answer quite quickly.
Yeah.
And, you're so much having to make I mean, now that I'm older, it's easier, and I work with the same cinematographer over and over, and he's lovely, Christopher Blauvelt, and he's a real partner in it. But if I would have ever appeared not knowing, that would have been like such a signal of like,
Yes.
but I've wondered about that. Just like, I mean, I can change something for a space, but I always feel I have to be there alone first and know before I get there.
But it's something that I sensed with Mia Hansen-Love. I mean, we lived together for, I don't know, over 10 years. And I suppose for exactly the same reasons, she really prepared like shot by shot, and she did like really, really sophisticated homework, which is something I would not be able to do. But for me, it's something that happened gradually. When I started making movies, I didn't function like that. I did more homework before the shoot. And it's only gradually that I decided that the process of filmmaking is organic.
Yes.
And if I want to know, I mean, I am going to constantly be able to adapt based on whatever is happening around me. And I think for me, Cold Water was kind of a turning point, in a sense that, how should I put it? I had a sense that I was not shooting a scene, but I was recreating a moment in life. And the problem was not to shoot it smartly or efficiently or coherently, but try just to capture what was happening in front of me. And I'm saying that in the sense that I was working with a group of kids, so it was there's the two main characters, but there's a bunch of them, and they were having fun. They had 1970s clothes, which were pretty cool at the time anyway. They were pretending they were smoking joints, and it was really cold, and they spent the night outside, and it was great for them. They were enjoying themselves, or at least they were living a different life for a moment. And I realized I didn't care about my shots. What I cared was to find the most fluid, the most relevant way of capturing what was going on. And I think that from then on, I kind of decided that whatever I would shoot the next day would be defined by what I had shot the previous day.
Yeah.
And I would give myself the potential to change things on a day-to-day basis. And now it's gone to extremes because now I'm not even rehearsing.
I never rehearse. But I can sometimes lock myself in too much. Like I get an idea of, and maybe a location changes or something, and then get stuck, and I'm not feeling as you say, like as fluid as maybe I want to. But I don't know. I'm not good at thinking when everyone's around. I want to do my thinking when I'm alone, but as we go on in the shoot and you get it has become from working with the same people over and over, where the space feels a little safer to sometimes just to be able to think in front of people a little bit, more than I used to be able to, which again is just experience and stuff. But so you're not thinking about editing while you're shooting? No. At all? Yeah.
At all. I changed the shots during the shots. We're doing a shot and which we have not rehearsed, and I feel that some stuff works, some stuff does not work. So I adapt, I change it, I add a line, I add a movement. So sometimes, certainly not always, but a lot of times, the last take is extremely different from the first take. I mean, it has become something else, and it has kind of, but to me the problem is to absorb the creative energy of the people around. I mean, it's also, I suppose, the reason why I work with the same people, and I'm sure it's similar for you, that filmmaking is a collective form of art.
For sure.
And you really absorb the ideas of people around you, and you have to give them the freedom to suggest stuff, because all of a sudden they give you stuff that would not come naturally to you, but which is completely relevant to the scene. So all of a sudden you kind of filter it, obviously. But to me, sometimes the guy who does the costumes will come up with something that's completely different from what I had in mind and say, oh yeah, sure, I hadn't looked at it from that angle, but you're completely right, it does work. And even more so when it's the cameraman. Because once people know that nothing is locked, they know they have space where they can, contribute.
And you're shooting film still, or
not the last one?
Not the last one.
Not the last one, because what about
not
you?
the last one either. No,
because the problem is something I've seen coming, and I'm sure you've seen it also coming. Is the fact that for a while you could shoot film for basically the same budget.
Yeah, exactly.
Because all the labs were ready to make efforts, and Kodak would make prices and so on and so forth. So in the end, the difference was minimal. Yeah. But now that all the labs have closed down, it's become a specialty. So it's become expensive.
It's become expensive,
and we were in Cuba, and so it was.
I'm from Miami,
Oh, are you?
Yeah, so interesting. Because I've never been to Cuba, but I come from a family of law enforcement in Miami, and my stepfather was an FBI agent. But I left in '84. So your time there's
it's a little later.
But it's interesting seeing it, because I haven't really returned. I returned from my first film in '93, but not really since then. And it's just interesting watching the, and I was so close to Cuba and I never was there.
Yes, but it's
but I lived in Miami when certainly the big wave of Cubans arrived.
Sure.
Yeah. And, it was crazy. It's just as a teenager, it was such a strange experience. And then also
to see the kind of boat people coming in, like the rafters.
Yes. And from Haiti also. And then watching the city change and the politics and the conservatism of the Cuban population, and just all of that, and the strife between the Black community and the Cuban community. And it's a complicated place, Miami, for sure. Yeah. So it's interesting for me to see.
Well, to me, what was, of course, a bit weird was that for obvious budget reasons, we were not able to shoot in Miami. We used a few establishing shots, but we really didn't have a chance of shooting in Miami because it was completely beyond our budget.
It's never been a film-friendly place. It's funny, I made River of Grass in '93, and every day they pulled us all over, and they really just thought we weren't giving money. We were like a $30,000 film, and they wanted, the city Miami's a crazy place, but it's not, I assumed it became more film-friendly over time, but maybe not.
Not anymore, I think, because it was for a while they had some sort of film fund, but that's gone. Yeah, for a few years, but that's gone.
It's gone.
No, it's gone. So I made a fantasy version of Miami because it's the 90s, and we ended up filming Miami in the most absurd places, like in Gran Canaria.
Oh, really?
Or in Cuba.
In Cuba. Oh, that's so fun. I couldn't identify anything particularly, but I've been gone for so long. I was like, oh, okay. But I was completely fooled. So, yeah. But did Wasp, the new film, begin the interest in it when you were doing Carlos?
The thing is that...
you write being by yourself? Sorry.
I do.
By yourself,
okay. I do.
But how have you made so many films then? You have like a Fassbinder filmography.
Not close to, but...
But you make a film like every 2 years. How do you're writing one film while you're making another film?
In this case... It was more like, because once in a while, I like to make a bigger film. I mean, I like to make a movie where I deal with modern history, or at least try to.
But it's still intimate when you do it.
Of course. Yeah. But still, it's a much more expensive film with much more complex logistics.
Same crew, though?
And same crew.
Oh, wow,
same crew.
nice.
Yeah,
that's so nice.
Yeah. The way I function, because I've been shooting a lot abroad, I keep the heads of department who are like the people I've always been working with, and we use the local crews, which is great also because you meet great people. And no, but the thing is that a movie like Wasp Network obviously takes longer to finance. So I finished the screenplay like a while ago.
Oh, I see.
And I had time basically to make another movie. And but then all of a sudden it kind of happened faster than expected, which is always something that's dependent on the availability of the actors, because I finished nonfiction early in the summer of last year. And I thought I would have a little piece before getting into it. But all of a sudden, Penelope Cruz was in the film and she had a slot in January or February or something. So all of a sudden, I just found myself in this crazy rush when I had to both deal with the opening of nonfiction and start preparing the other film. But I will never do that again.
She's amazing. Yeah. But your airplane shots, are you making those up on the day you go up in the airplane?
No,
okay.
no. That I don't know how to do. No, that was the one time, but it was torture. It was torture.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the way it turned out because visually I'm kind of proud because of all the hard work I put in it.
Beautiful.
But no, I designed it, redesigned it, redesigned it, had meeting, and and because also we had constantly to struggle with budget problems on this film. I mean, it's the film looks expensive, and it was expensive. It was something like $10 million, which is much more than in my usual movies. But still, I mean, we would have been comfortable if we had the double of that. So we had to find solutions for basically everything, and we had to cut into the special effects budget. So which means that there's much less special effects in that scene than what you would imagine or what I myself imagined when I was initially thinking about it.
But that's maybe why it feels intimate in a way. It feels, I don't know, I feel like it's a big, small film, in a great way. Yeah.
But redesigning that stuff, it was like to me it was close to storyboarding, which is like
not what you want to do,
not what I want, not what I like at all. So it was a bit of a torture. I mean, to me, the fact of designing and redesigning and redesigning shots to me kind of kills some of the pleasure of filmmaking.
I find it so pleasurable. I like to build a book of the movie, and I don't know, I enjoy it. It's like a collage.
Meaning you have photos, you have images?
I have images, maybe from other movies, maybe from paintings, stills, could be from anywhere. And then, or my friend, a painter I like, and sometimes he'll go to a location with me and do some drawings, but I like to build a book to start the conversation before Chris Blauvelt comes. And I just, it's like washing the dishes, and while you have something to do, you can think of the answers, or while you're driving, as opposed to just sitting. And then as I'm going through the shoot, I'm coming home at night and sort of rearranging my little pictures, and it's just something it's cut and paste. I don't know, I like it's tactile, and
but you have a notion of what you will shoot. I mean, like
for sure. And it goes like from the pictures that are not from the world to when I start scouting, then I'm taking stills and putting those in another book. I don't know, so many books. Everyone's making fun of me because I'm carrying them, but by the time you're getting there, you don't need them anymore because you've come to learn them.
Yes,
it's you don't really, I think it's just the doing of something that helps me understand the movie and what I'm going to do. So
I've done that, but for my period pieces. Where, like a long time ago when I made Les Destinées Sentimentales, which was, it took place at the beginning of the 19th century, and it involved recreating a porcelain factory. It involved recreating the trade of cognac in the 19th. So I had to absorb visually so much stuff, and also I was adapting a book. So it was a completely different way of approaching cinema. So all of a sudden I thought that because I was not the writer, but which to me was an interesting question. I mean, in the sense that how do you represent in a truthful way the past, meaning a world you have no reference too. You were not around. You have no idea how those people spoke, moved, what was their worldview, what they dreamed of when they slept. I mean, it's just you just don't have. It's kind of an alien world. So you need to absorb as much images, feelings, sensations, facts, and so on and so on. So I ultimately the screenplay became my image book.
I see, yeah.
Or my notes or whatever, or my comments. And so I had like two parallel screenplays.
And what do you do then when after the movie's finished, are you taking a break or you're going right into the editing room?
Depends.
You're living with the footage? You're looking at the footage, or you start?
I start with scene one.
And
I don't watch dailies. I don't know if you watch dailies.
No, never.
I never want.
No, I never. No. That's a different state of mind. No. But are you? Do you feel any sense like I'm going to make an assembly or something that is how I intended it to be with relation to the script, or you're just?
No.
Are you cutting in order?
Yeah.
Yes, you're starting at the beginning.
I start at the beginning. Whatever I don't like is out.
And are you revisiting it later? The things that are out now? No.
Usually I realized that at the beginning I was a bit too lenient, and I was becoming a little bit harsher as the.
Are you shooting in order?
No,
I
would love to.
No,
that's what the Dardenne brothers do.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dardenne brothers, they shoot in chronology. So if they need to
so
go
nice
back,
back.
so they have the sets, all the sets during the whole shoot. Which I envy them.
Yeah, so much. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because that's the way movies should be made. Really.
Right. That would be the dream.
I mean, to me, it's one of the disgrace of movies that you in the morning you shoot a scene from the beginning of the film, and in the afternoon you shoot the ending or whatever. And to me, the worst was when I was making Carlos. I had no idea. I
don't know how. Yeah, that must have been really difficult. Actually,
that was crazy because I had poor Edgar Ramirez. He would come in for a shot with a mustache, and then he would leave the set. He would come back with a beard, and all of a sudden we were, in the morning we were in East Germany, in the afternoon we were in Hungary or whatever. It was
because you were shooting all 3 episodes as a whole. You shot it like a film.
To me, it's a film.
Yeah, but you didn't. But it wasn't forced on you to break it up through 3 different shoots.
No, absolutely not.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
No, it was one film. It was one coherent 5.5 hour film, and that's it. And then I had to cut it in 3 pieces because that's what
so that came later. So you just approach as a 5.5 hour film.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which was shot, in 94. I mean, the whole thing was completely out of proportions. It
was shot in how long?
We shot 18 weeks. Which is not much. I mean, meaning it's 3 times 6 weeks.
But
ultimately.
if you're making everything up every day, that's exhausting.
It was.
Could you? Be creative for that long.
I have no idea. It's. I don't know. You have a bag of tricks, and you end up having to use every single one of them.
Right. So when you go in the editing room, are you going through all your takes? Are you just watching footage for a while?
I watch all the material for one scene. And I think I'm sure it's the same. I think you have a completely different relationship to the material when you are in the editing room.
Yes.
And sometimes takes that felt great on the set, they all of a sudden they are not so good, or takes you hardly noticed, or all of a sudden you realize that something great is happening, and that's the one. I feel that when you're assembling the film, you have very little choice ultimately. I mean, in my case, usually there's no second take. I mean, there's one take where something happens, and the other ones are like not bland, but they don't have the specific life that one take has.
So you're using, but sometimes you must be taking part of a take and then.
Oh yes, of course. That's why I watch everything because all of a sudden in a dull take you have a great line, or you have a great.
But your camera's always moving, so it's interesting to me that it all can just cut together without such a plan because it does work.
Because it's I like the idea of movement, which has to do with the specificity of cinema. I mean, in the sense that I like the idea of the change of perspective. Not to be dependent on the idea of a monocular perspective of camera obscura kind of thing.
But you love Bresson.
But I worship Bresson. I worship Bresson.
Yeah.
But
Likewise.
Bresson moves his camera. He's extremely precise in his syntax. He has a very sophisticated syntax.
I mean, yes. He makes it look like it should be simple. Like you should be able to just achieve what he
but no.
Yeah, exactly. But no.
No. But the thing is, yes, I'm kind of obsessed with movement. I mean, I'm obsessed with the process of change. I mean, it's the idea that within the shot, the more change there is in a certain way, the more cinematic it is. But sometimes when I watch your film, what I also admire is your sense of timing. I mean, because you leave time for things to become real, and there is something that's very poetic about the presence of nature, the presence, because you take time in ways that I'm always maybe a bit shy to use time. I have this kind of obsession with energy, speed, and this and that, and sometimes I wish I could have your patience.
But you're spending time with someone. If the train is moving, you have your speed.
Yes.
But then you can settle in with.
Yes.
You have quite a thing about the. I was noticing you have a real. I mean, I've thought about the telephone a lot because I always having my students like find prop phones like the phone. And we're always talking about the telephone of if you're showing one person on the phone and the energy, like dialed in for murder or something, you don't know who's on the other end. Yes. That's mysterious. Or, a film where you're going back, like, we're using a cardinal knowledge in a scene, like where you're seeing both sides of
that's true.
Or the millions of time that you're seeing like the switchboard operator, someone's in between the call and you can't listen so you have the mother in Summer Hours. She's immediately getting these phones, right? And then she hates them. But you're quite obsessed with the phone. Like you're not afraid. It seems like a lot of people are shooting right up, like designing their films to be up to the year of certain technologies. And you're embracing it.
Yes. No, because I genuinely think that if I'm looking at what has been changing in the world for the last 10, 20, 25 years, whatever, it has to do with our connection. It's not about the phone. It's the phone. The phone is a prop. It's nothing. The thing is that you are in connection with this huge data bank that becomes some kind of extension of your brain, and I think there is something vertiginous about it. In the sense that it kind of changed our identity, it changed the human experience.
Everything,
And so it's not just that I'm obsessed with that stuff. I mean, I haven't asked for it. It kind of has happened to us. We did not necessarily ask for it. And now we have to deal with it.
Right.
And I think the way we deal with information and we deal with this additional memory we have in our hand ends up defining us as individual, and we have to kind of not reinvent ourselves, but redefine maybe ourselves based on something that alters the human experience. So yes, in that sense, I've been fascinated, and I'm not sure I've found the adequate way to represent the depth of it, but I tried.
I mean, I have a visceral feeling about it. Like watching it, it's something that, well, like in New York City, it's so easy to be really frustrated. You know you're walking behind someone on the phone or coming up the subway stops and someone's on the phone, and get out of the way on the phone, move over. But my own texting doesn't really bother me at all. I'm quite certain that I'm moving right along with the flow and I'm in nobody's way at all. But when I'm watching your films and Kristen Stewart's on the phone, or even like she's in a scene with someone else that's on the phone behind her, I'm really... First, I'm getting mad and I'm getting frustrated, but I'm ultimately feeling left out. And that is a feeling that I think comes about with, we've all sat across from the table with someone on the phone. You're like, well, I'm here. And you're looking at your phone.
Yes.
And it is what I get from it when I see it in your film is about this compulsion of nonstop connecting and the feeling of the loneliness of it,
loneliness,
and being
of loneliness, of course,
an alienation of it. Yeah.
When I make Personal Shopper, it's a movie about urban loneliness.
Yeah.
And longing and and missing something. She in this case she misses a brother, but ultimately she's missing something in the way we all have this sense of missing something, of frustration. I mean, I think we live in a society which doesn't give us answers. And we are like left on our own with unanswered questions about what we are doing, why we are doing it, how we are doing it, and how the society we live in does function or should function, or we should relate to it. There's something that constantly remains unanswered. There's this loss of a sense of community that is, so much part of the modern experience.
Yeah. Because you called it at the beginning with Summer Hours because her kids are absent, of course, and they give her three telephones. It's so sad, and she doesn't want them. I mean, it's really, and it's the ugliest object in the house. Yeah. So the lack of telephone is not as bad as the coming in of the new modern technology.
Yes.
But Apple must send you tons of stuff after every film.
They don't.
They must be. No, I think you getting it across. I think most people are avoiding it and not knowing how to.
But
I
to
think
me,
it's a question for everyone how to take it on. I mean, a whole genre of like thriller, detective thriller, like how you can't sneak in with the flashlight to the filing cabinet anymore. It's over. It's all,
of course.
It's all Google, right?
But it's it's. I was watching again movies by a filmmaker I'm obsessed with, who is Sacha Guitry. Sacha Guitry, he's a French filmmaker. He was a playwright, and he started making movies like the minute the talkies arrived. He was already a superstar on the stage as a writer and an actor. And in 1931, all of a sudden, sound came, and he started making movies, and he made like 10 movies with his girlfriend of the time or something. Wow. And they are amazing. They are just incredible. And, I had been watching those movies, and because they are, I don't know. I've always had a special relationship with his work. And at some point I realized, wow, it's really interesting. He was using phones in his plays at a time when nobody used phones. It was not supposed to be part of the aesthetic of because this was pretty much conventional bourgeois theater initially, and he was trying stuff like those monologues on the phone, or like what Cocteau did with La Voix Humaine. It's all of a sudden every single invention, a new dimension of communication redefines the very notion of communication, and same thing with text messaging or whatever, But one thing I wondered is how do you get your films financed here in the US? I mean, how do you?
Well, they're small, as you know.
What kind of budget?
This one was like double the budget I'd had before, but everybody's always so. Hard on, you're not supposed to say. But Scott Rudin was kind enough to come in on this film, and I'd never worked with him before. But it was also the first all-around union film we had done. And so it changes things.
The other
you know?
ones were non-union.
Yeah. And so on the one hand, on the positive, it gave me more time because we were only allowed to work these certain hours and 5-day weeks, which was amazing to think while you were making a film that never had that before.
And in France, you have to deal with that.
It was great. Because usually we're working like 18, we just kill I'm too old. It's too cold. It's like, below zero and we're on our 18th hour. And I'm too old. But so that was great. But, it does take your it has its...
no, but I mean, how many days?
30 days of shooting.
And for the other ones?
Yeah.
Always more or less. Okay.
Anywhere, like Wendy and Lucy was like 19 days, I think. And Old Joy was 14 days. But Meeks was, I think, 30. We did 4 reshoot days, so 34 days.
But
it's around 30 days. Yeah.
Same for me. I mean, for all my recent films, that was 30 days. And I did Cold Water was 20.
20, yeah.
20, Irma Vep was 20 also.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been very, the budgets are small, but, I'm cutting myself and there's no one really, telling us what we've been completely left alone.
So no, it's the price of freedom.
Yeah, the price of freedom.
It's the price of freedom,
of course. Everybody's waving at us.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it's lovely to meet you and know you because I'm a big fan of your films and it's...
it was
great.
A great pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Kelly Reichardt, Olivier Assayas, thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, it was a pleasure for them. And it was a pleasure for us to be in the room with them.
Really
Go check out First Cow in theaters through A24 for March 6th. It is a wonderful film. And Wasp Network, Olivier's next movie, is upcoming, but currently doesn't have a date. So just keep your eyes peeled. We will keep you posted on that one.
And definitely subscribe to the Talk House podcast. We have some fantastic upcoming conversations, including new pornographers AC Newman with Post Animal, Katie Crutchfield, a.k.a. Waxahachie, with Whitmer Thomas, and George Saunders with Dana Spiotta.
That's a fine lineup. And if you're in the mood for more sort of elevated conversation about film from great directors, go check out Lulu Wong in conversation with Ruben Östlund and Harmony Korine with Kavi Zahedi. Those are just 2 that I picked off the top of my head, but they're pretty great.
I'm going to throw in one more because I was listening to it recently and it's such a great talk you put together. Darren Aronofsky with Alejandro Jodorowsky. Holy shit.
Another great one. Thank you, Elia, for not only hosting this episode, but also for recording it valiantly in a real estate conference room in the vicinity of Lincoln Center. Very, very good of you.
And Nick, you and I are being recorded at Hook and Fade Studios by our co-producer, Mark Yoshizumi.
Thank you, Mark.
The Talk House podcast theme song was composed and performed by The Range.
The Range.
Till next week, I'm Elia Einhorn.
I'm Nick Dawson.
Peace. And cows. What's up? Juicy Lucy.
Welcome to Death Watch with me, Nick Dawson. Our guest today is Elia Einhorn.
I got
Elia,
5 minutes.
How long have you got for us?
I got 5 minutes.